Hey, Spooksters, and welcome back to another episode here on Three Spooked Girls. My name is Tara, and as always, I'm here with my girlfriend, Jessica.
Hello.
Hello. So we are back with another Evil Lives Here recap. I'm liking this show, but I'm just dying because when I was watching it, I was thinking of like you telling me about the reenactments and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I see it. I see it. And how the intro's like very American Horror Story-esque.
Very. And you're like, what is happening? This is the crime drama. Calm down.
Exactly. I was just like, "Oh my God, this is all right. I'm here for this." It's in a good way. So, it's not like bad production. It's good. Similar to like newer Lifetime movies, I would say. Is kind of how it feels to me at least. So,
Yes, with actual people who look like actual people and not just like a
yes.
random person. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. But before we get into that, if you are new here, hello, welcome. Thank you for checking out the show. Returning Spooksters, welcome back. If you want to hang out with us on social media, you can find us on all the places at this point. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Threads. Our handle is at Three Spooked Girls. We also have our wonderful Facebook group, which is Three Spooked Girls Official. We just have a lot of fun over there. We do a lot of early announcements, and when we like to do polls and stuff, we always drop them there. I recently did one maybe a week or two ago now for Social Seance Society for any guest requests. So if you have any of those, feel free to drop them over there. And if you're a reader, we do have our book club, which is Spookster Literary Society. We're recording like crazy people right now. I don't know when this is coming out, but basically each month we do a main read and we do a feminine rage read. So we have two books and we do two meetings at the end of each month on our Discord, which technically is for all things Spooked Girls, but that's where the meetings live and all of that. So definitely check that out. And if you would like to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/ three spooked girls. For as little as $1, you get one bonus episode a month. 5 and up, you get ad-free episodes the day before. And I believe it'll be out, at least part of it at this point, the Gypsy Rose series, because we're recapping season 2. Because again, in real time, the show airs tomorrow, and then Jessica and I can watch it the day after that. Because we don't have cable. So we'll watch it the day after, and then recaps will be coming soon. Recaps will, at least a couple episodes will be out by the time you guys hear this. So yeah, I'm super excited. I'm ready. Ryan was on live last night. I just have to say that.
Oh, is he on the series? Well, I mean, I get that he would be because like they have to get divorced.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
Like,
I don't know how much, because I feel like they've kept it really quiet on
yeah.
how the season's gonna play out, because it could go one of two ways. They're either gonna show like his side of this whole thing, because I think depending on where they picked up, I can't remember, they'll have a few months before their divorce happens.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know how much we're gonna get of him. We will know soon. But yeah, Shannon was scrolling TikTok yesterday or last night, and he popped up on the FYP. He was on live. So I was like, oh shit. Probably because of the show.
Yeah, speaking of Gypsy Rose, in real time, Casey Anthony has just come out with her like Substack and like people can pay to
Hmm.
get like legal advice or whatever from her.
Yeah.
Someone like caught up with Gypsy and asked her what she thought, and she just
TMZ.
went, she's like, "No, that's not a good idea, no." And I'm like, "Oh, cool."
Yeah, Gypsy's not stupid, so at least there's that. But yeah, we will talk about Casey on our monthly hot topics, which I think this is an April episode, so that would have already came out. So go listen to
Yeah.
that, because that's like pretty much probably going to be the whole episode.
Oh yeah, I know. We're gonna like definitely it's gonna be dedicated to Casey Anthony and her
Oh
shenanigans.
God. We'll just say it now. If you didn't listen to that and you're gonna go over there, let's just make it a game. Take a tally or play a drinking game and drink every time we just like, I don't know, we say something about Casey. We have to say allegedly, because she's getting lawsuit happy, because I already took screenshots of her wanting to sue all of these people for talking shit about her on TikTok because she's butthurt,
You
allegedly.
know, okay, I'm just gonna say this. If you are an alleged child murderer, you can't prove that you're innocent, and you have this like cockamamie story that's like, this is what happened, and people are like, I don't believe you. You should just no, don't be in the public, like just stay out of the public light. Like that's my advice to
Right.
Casey Anthony. Here's my advice to you. Just go get a regular life.
Exactly.
If Kaylee Anthony was alive today, we wouldn't know who Casey Anthony is. Just
Oh,
facts. I don't feel bad for her when people are like, "I think you should go away." Like, why would I wanna give money to someone who capitalizes on their child's murder?
I don't know, but I think it's funny that the timing of her we'll get in the episode in a second, guys, sorry. But the timing of her saying all that and posting that, I believe was after Nancy Grace came out of the woodwork and just decided to rip her ass, so I'm sure she's probably more concerned with, like, the big people because she's like,
Yeah.
"I can get money from these people," but it's like, good fucking luck because Nancy will do everything she can to make sure you don't get fucking anything from her ass.
And also, like,
Top mom. God.
at this point in time, like, you didn't sue her back then, and this has
What's
been
the
your
difference? So
nickname.
what's the difference? Like,
Right, this
what's
has
the
been
difference of people saying stuff then or now?
because she's hoping people have forgotten.
Mhm.
She's hoping that, like, the docuseries that she did a couple years ago, like, softened people's hearts towards her, and she's hoping that people are, like, forgetting about her, and, like, it kinda seems like that remember that attorney she was, like, working with? It just kinda feels
Yeah.
like maybe that relationship has, like, gone away, and now she's, like, with that married dude, the guy who left his wife for her.
Right, and they're, like, in Tennessee, I think, or something now. Yeah.
Mhm, and I
Mhm.
think with, like, the internet, like, you can be the most hated person on the internet and still make a lot of money because people give you views and content, and that's why, like, I appreciate the people, like, on TikTok who will go, like, take down people's videos and then, like, repost them so that I can watch that video, but not give that creator any money. I can give it to someone else who, like, deserves it. But, like, Casey, what are you doing, girly pop? Go open an Etsy shop and, like, knit sweaters.
I don't know, man, but we're gonna move on from Casey now because I have nothing nice to say. Oh, and in case you did not know, we do have a monthly newsletter. It's connected to my Substack, and you guys can we do recaps of like everything we did that month, and then if we have any announcements. So basically, all our business stuff is once a month there. And we did announce on there and in the Facebook group, going back to that Social Science Society will be seasonal. So April is our month break. So if you haven't caught up, great time to do so. And also kind of why we were like, tell us guest ideas because we got prep time. But anyway, we're going to get into this episode. This is called My Brother's Secret. And like just mentioned last week, we're starting at the very beginning of the series. So this episode released January 24th of 2016. I was like, damn, that's so long ago. Like, what the fuck? That's not 5 years ago? What's happening? Our person that is doing the sit down that we meet, her name is Danyall White. I think it's still pronounced like Danielle. She's the one talking, and when her brother talks about her, he just calls her D, but it's
Yeah.
Danyall. So if I'm mispronouncing, my bad. But this is at the time, the first time in 12 years that she sat down to talk about her brother's case. I would assume she probably hasn't really done anything after because I feel like we would have came across this guy by now. So it starts out super dramatic, just like episode 1. And Danielle is talking to the camera and she says, "I will never forget what I saw on TV. It was a helicopter and I said, 'Why are they in that backyard? What are they doing?' I couldn't move. After a few minutes of being there in shock, I walked around begging God to wake me up because I knew it was a nightmare. That none of this was true. It was just not true and I didn't get to wake up." Dun, dun, dun. And then we automatically are like, what has someone done? We jump to interrogation footage, which is a lot of this episode, which I think adds depth to it because, yeah. So we see interrogation footage of Danielle's brother, and he's saying, "I wanted to get caught because I knew I wasn't going to be able to stop." And then we get our little text screen, and it says that on September 10th, 2003, Richard Paul White was arrested in Aurora, Colorado. We go back to the interrogation room again for 2 seconds, and he says, "I needed help. I said, 'Please help me, help me to help them so nobody else gets hurt anymore.'" Then we cut to Danielle, and she's looking through, like, pictures of when her and her brother were kids, showing them to the producers, all of that, and there's this one particular one where they're with a snowman, and she looks so mad, and he looks so happy because this head had melted, and her brother is holding the hat they had put on the snowman and just being like, haha. She says, "When someone calls my brother evil or a monster, I get mad. I get really, really mad." Just because someone does something horrible doesn't mean you don't love them anymore, and I love my brother. That has never changed and never will change. So I'm going to refer to him as RP because that's just what she calls him, but that's Richard. So RP and Danyall are 18 months apart. She described their childhood as having a lot of turmoil, so they didn't really have any like friends at school and things like that. They were each other's friends, especially being so close in age. There were other siblings, but the two of them, I mean, if you think about it, they're basically twins. So
Mhm.
she said that she believed that her brother wasn't capable of hurting anyone ever. They show a reenactment of them when they're like maybe 10-ish, and she's like telling him about like a girl who's bullying her and stuff. And he's like, I'll take care of you. And like this cute little scene like that, like they're just sitting there type of thing. She's like, it wasn't all so sweet though. She talks about when she was younger, she would wake up and he was just pulling an Edward from Twilight and sitting in her room and staring at her. She says to him when she wakes up, like, what are you doing? And he just says, I'm watching you sleep.
Oh,
And
not creepy at all.
apparently, this was not a weird thing for her. This was something that happened regularly. She was just like, okay, my brother's freaking weird, like whatever type of thing. And when this would happen, basically she'd just like get up, leave the room, whatever. But he would always just stay sitting in there. And she just said, I had no idea what was going on in his head. It was just creepy. So I'm like, well, yeah, that is really like fucking weird. Because they show the kid in this, like, it's not even like sitting on another bed or a bunk bed or anything like that. He's literally
Mhm.
got like a chair pulled up, like sitting next to her bed.
Nope. Mm-mm. I'd be like, "Get the fuck out of my room."
Pretty much. She said that he was really religious, but not in the way you would automatically think. He gravitated towards the negative things in the Bible. It sounded like, loved to read like Revelations, basically. And she was talking about how he took eye for an eye very literally and that he was obsessed with the Bible and God and all this stuff. And she said that when they were kids, he had an AC/DC record and somebody had told him that it was Satan's music. So he
Oh.
smashed it. Yeah, he smashed it. So he smashed it because, well, besides getting told that, because he thought the devil was trying to communicate with him through the music.
Oh, he just made a lot of, like, evangelical Christians real happy that he confirmed that.
Right. She said that there was times she was really scared of him and it always was just how he was. So, she didn't know any different, but he did start escalating and becoming violent. Fair warning, this next part does involve the death of a pet. So if you need to jump 30 seconds, go ahead. So they had a parakeet named Ginger. And she said one day they were getting ready for school. And he says, Hey, Dee, watch this. And snapped the bird's neck and threw it on the ground for the cat to eat it.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And she was pretty young. She was like, I think they were like early middle school. She starts crying and asking him, Why did you do that? Like, my bird never did anything to you, all of that. And he said, So you'd screw up on your finals.
What?
Yeah. And then, of course, in the reenactment, it's another creepy kid. So he's just like smiling, all like, gross, like, eek, like demon child scary. But she just says that, this was how he was. Unfortunately, he would switch from being like super nice, caring brother to completely ruthless and doing crazy shit like this. And she literally was just like, when you grow up with different, you assume it's normal. So she never asked him why he did anything like this or what was causing this.
That makes sense.
Yeah, especially as a
Yeah.
kid, like, that's not really like her responsibility. So,
Yeah, and you also, like, hear from your friends, like, "Oh, my brother is so mean to me, blah, blah, blah," so she's probably just like, "He's just a brother. He just is different."
exactly. Yeah, that's basically what she's trying to make sure the audience is like understanding for sure. So we jump ahead when Danielle was 19. She said that she received a terrifying call. Like I mentioned earlier, they do have other siblings, and she said one of their other siblings called and said that RP had contacted her and said that he has HIV.
Oh, no, that's so young.
And this was like this is like, early 2000s or whatever. And
Mhm.
so I don't know what the, treatment situation was like back then type of thing. But she talks about, she's like, I was really scared for him. I was scared for his health. How was he gonna, get his medication? Like, was my brother gonna die? Like, I've heard all of these horrible things. So of course it puts her in this spiral because it's her brother that she's so close with. So one day she is hanging out with him and checking on him and asks how his treatment is going. And in the reenactment, and I'm assuming this is like exactly kind of how it happened because you'll learn about more about him later, but I believe this is probably how it happened. He kind of chuckles and he's like, I don't have HIV. I'm fine. I'm
What?
not taking. Yeah, he admits and thinks it's so fucking funny that he lied for a whole year about having HIV.
Not a thing to lie about.
Mhm.
Mm-mm. Nope, not a thing.
And he had a history of lying all the time. Another time, Danielle tells us that he lied about one of his friends being dead, and she paid for him to go across the state to the funeral and come home, like paid for everything for him. And wouldn't you know, 2 years later, she's out and about and she runs into this friend that's supposed to be dead.
Oh, Lord.
I can't imagine that mind fuck. Be like, I thought you died years ago. Like, what the fuck?
I sent my brother to your funeral.
Yeah, no, he just got a free trip to whatever the hell he went and did.
Oh, wow.
And she said that he would make up other stories about committing crimes and robberies, and they knew it wasn't true because he'd be like, "Oh, I went and robbed such and such bank." They're in Aurora and they're near Denver, so it would have been in the news. It would have been in the paper,
Right.
something.
Right.
And no, none of this was happening. And she said you could never know what was real and what wasn't. And that when he was drinking, his stories would start pouring out even more. And eventually, this also escalated, and he started telling stories about how he was killing people.
Oh.
Yeah, so she tells us about one day after work, they're hanging out at her house and they're playing cards. And she was like, by the time, I got home and stuff, because she worked at like a bar, he was already drunk and he was starting his bullshit basically. And she said, but what was different was he would go into these really super like vivid details of like the weapon and how he would do it, like why he would pick strangulation, like it would do X, Y, and Z, like going completely in it, right? But she's like, he's a fucking liar. So, like, okay, like, you're really creepy. Like, please stop. And she's like, he also loved super, super gory, like, extreme horror. So she was like, he's got to be just like regurgitating
Mhm.
what he's seeing in these movies, right?
That would track, yeah.
Yeah, he, like, told her neighbors, he told his girlfriend because he somehow had a girlfriend. He told her coworkers at the bar that he, like, didn't even know, would tell them all these stories.
Wow, so he just
And
out here telling everybody his business.
yeah, everyone knew that he made stuff up, so no one ever called the cops or anything. No one believed him, no one wasn't really concerned, and that wasn't until one day, though, when his girlfriend started having doubts on maybe something he's saying is true. She went over to Danielle's house to talk to her about this because that's like, the most logical person, obviously, in his life to talk to about this stuff. And she told Danielle that he said that he had killed people, but not only that, but he buried them in the backyard. And that freaked her out, obviously, because I'm assuming, like, I don't know if she was like staying with him, but, at the very least, she would like be at his house. I don't think they lived together. I'm pretty sure they didn't. So she was like, is there any way this is true? Like, this is like too much, that kind of thing. But same thing. Danielle's like, no, listen, like, he tells everybody this. He's telling this person, that person, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's just how he is. Like, it's not true. There's no way. He would never hurt anybody. And so she's like, okay, and believed it and stayed dating him. She doesn't die. Just FYI, in case you're worried.
And just the fact that this woman has this, like, little bit of a gut instinct and is like, "I'm just gonna, like, assume that he's a murderer because otherwise why would he be on the show?" It's crazy to me because he's, like, literally telling anyone and everyone, "I kill people," and because
And
he's lied
everyone's like,
so much, they're like, "Oh, yeah, it's just RP, like, he tells people he murders people." Also, that alone would be, like, a big red flag, the fact that that's the lie he's choosing to tell.
yes, please don't date anybody that's making up stuff like that, whether it's true or fake. Like, that's alarming, to say the least. Like, I don't know what else to say to that.
It's like, "We need the red flag dude. Where is he?" Just
Run
running
through.
around. Just run through
Run through.
all the time.
So Girlfriend comes back a different day. She literally comes busting into Danielle's house running. She is hysterical. She's sobbing. She's crying. She drags Danielle to the bathroom. She gets in there. She said, he's coming, lock the door. So they lock the door. RP comes in and he's screaming and banging on the door, telling her, come out of there, saying, D, let her out. Like, I need to talk to her, like, blah, 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 right? Like, all this shit. And this is going on for hours. Danielle said they were stuck in that bathroom for several hours. So she says, okay, I'm gonna have to calm him down. I gotta figure this out. I can't make him more upset, whatever. So she opens the door and he's pointing a gun at them.
Nope, shut the door.
She keeps it open and she starts just trying to reason with him, be like, what is happening? Why are you doing this? Like, you need to put that down. Like, let's talk about this. Help me understand. Like, I'm sure she's probably diffused a lot of situations with him at this point. That's what it sounded like to me. So he is just like so fucking mad and so pissed and like trying to say, like, get her, like, have her come out here, like, da 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 da. And she's like still sobbing and crying behind Danielle. And Danielle's just like, what the fuck? So then in their argument, well, not really argument, but in them talking, he decides he's going to turn the gun on himself. And he says that he's going to shoot himself and that it's not worth it. And, all this stuff. And then she says she stops and she's like, I got to think of something like really fast. Like, what's one thing he will actually respond to? So she says to him, if you kill yourself and my kids come home and see you dead, they're never going to get it out of their head. And she said that was just like, that made him stop. He dropped the gun. He calmed down. He stopped and he walked away.
That's good. That was
Yeah.
quick thinking on her part.
Yeah, understandably. She tells the producers that after this, things were never the same between them. I mean, he pointed a gun at you, so yeah, I kind of get that.
That would be like the end of a relationship for me, for sure.
And after this, Danielle said that she just tried to avoid him altogether as much as possible, which I'm like, yep, makes sense, right? She was able to avoid him until September 8th, 2003. He called her in the middle of the night, reenactments like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And he is very shaken and said that he needed her to come see him, that he did something, but it wasn't his fault. It was an accident. He said he accidentally killed somebody. Yeah. He said that him and one of his friends were hanging out. They were smoking weed and they were having drinks and they were cleaning their guns. And he had just got this new handgun. So he was showing his friend how to clean it and it accidentally went off.
Call the police.
Well,
I mean, if it was truly an accident.
Yeah, no, but also the vibe, I think why no one's ever called the police until whatever happens is because that's not the vibe for the type of crowd they're around.
Got it.
So he says, you need to come get me. I need you to go get my stuff. I need you to bring me stuff from my house. Like, I have to get the fuck out of here. I have to go to the woods. Like, I need to go hide out for a few days. And Danielle says that, like, she's like, I know this is so messed up, but she's like, honestly, I was so relieved that I was going to pick him up and just drop him off because he would not be my problem. He would be somebody else's problem for once. And I was like, that checks out with the other vibes I'm picking up. So he asked her to get outdoor gear, boots, jackets, all of that, and then said to her he's going to need some rations for a couple days because the place she drops him off at is like in the mountains somewhere. So she's like, okay, I got you. Because he pulls that whole, you're my sister, that bullshit. So she's like, okay. And she said that, I believed him. I thought it was an accident and he was just trying to avoid trouble. So I was going to do what I had to do. So she went to his house, got his stuff, got him a little bit of food, probably just picked up a couple things from like the gas station because it's the middle of the night, and then went and got him and then took him to the spot he wanted to go to. And when they got there, they made a plan that she would bring him more food the next day. And now the timeline on this is kind of weird because as she turns to leave, she says that she hears him cock the gun he had. I guess he tried to tell her, oh, I stepped on a twig, but it was like a whole like 30 seconds of her being like, no, 100%. She thought he was going to shoot her because,
oh my God.
Yeah.
That's scary. That's very scary. Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, my back was, and we see this in the reenactment too, like her back was to him. And she was just like, holy shit, he doesn't believe me. I have to do something, or I have to make him believe me so I can get the fuck out of here. Cause I don't know what's going on, but I can't die. She brings up her kids again. And she said, the kids will be waiting on me. I gotta go. I think it was like, it was now not like daytime the next day or whatever. She was like, I gotta go. I gotta get back before they get home from school. And he's like, okay, D, I love you. I'll see you later. and then she leaves.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, she gets home and she sees the person who he's saying he accidentally murdered is dead, and the report is saying the guy committed suicide. She said she had so much guilt in that moment because she knew what had happened. She knew her brother had just said, "Oh my god, I accidentally shot him," and obviously bounced cuz, she's like, "I couldn't let his family think that he was suicidal, that I don't want them to have that worry of what could we have done? What did we miss?" and have guilt themselves for something that's not even true. So I thought she was going to call the family. She doesn't. She actually calls the cops.
Oh,
And yeah, I was like,
plot twist.
"Okay." I'm like, "So see, subconsciously you knew he was lying." So whether you want to admit that or not, because I know this whole thing is very complicated internal struggle for her. Anyway, so she calls the cops and she tells them everything. And she's like, "I full-heartedly believe that this was an accident. So that's what I told them. That, I told them everything exactly like that." And then, she's like, "Then I figured they could, do what they had to do and then let the family know," type of thing. Well, we learned so much more. So they go and arrest him and bring him in. And the interrogation is, of course, to be like, "What happened with you and your friend?" Right? And we go back to the interrogate, they show the footage again. He's really chill. He's very calm. He's very respectful. As they're undoing his cuffs, he literally tells them thank you. And he confesses to killing his friend. He said, "There was an accident and we're just sitting there cleaning our guns, fucking around, and my gun accidentally goes off. One minute we're sitting there talking, laughing, and then the next minute he's got a hole in his head." And we think this is where this is going to end. But no.
Right, 'cause that
He
that typically would make sense, yeah.
Yeah. He says, "I am a killer. I've killed 3 other people." And the
Oh,
officer yeah, the officer's like, "Oh, really?" They have to be calm. They're like, "Who's the 3 other people?" And I wrote his quote down, and I'm sure you'll figure out in the first 2 seconds why I'm, pointing out this is him. This is RP says, quote, "Prostitutes. Nobody cares about those people. You know what? And they're at their lowest point in their life. And what am I doing? I'm out here fucking and killing them." He then tells them he buried 2 of them in his backyard, just like he's been telling everybody else. And he says, "They're in there. I'm telling you, I dug the goddamn holes, man." He's telling literally all these stories that he had been telling his sisters and all those other people.
mhm,
He's telling this to the cops verbatim.
and people are starting to believe him finally.
Uh-huh. So Danielle says, "When I heard he confessed, I thought," she still didn't believe it at that point. She said, "When I heard that he confessed, I thought he was sending them on a wild goose chase." She's like, "I thought these cops were idiots and they were wasting their time and not going to find anything." Well, before we find out that, then it shows RP in the interrogation room by himself, and he said he's just talking to the camera, talking to himself. He says, "They think I'm lying. Wait till they go dig up them bodies." And that's literally how he said it. They
This is
found
a man who was, screaming for people to pay attention to his
Yeah,
actions, literally
yeah.
telling out the whole world.
Oh, yeah, yep, they found 2 bodies exactly where he said they would be. And Danielle, without that information that they found the bodies, she's just like, "Oh my god, he's an impulsive liar." She's like, "I should have told them that." She's, thinking, "Holy shit, I did not give them enough information," but it's like, no, he gave them all the information. So she literally just, that's how she felt, and she turned on the news one day, and it was the breaking news, how it was in the beginning with the news going into the backyard of the helicopter. That was his backyard. And right when that was coming on, the detective calls her and he's like, "I need to tell you, I need to talk to you and tell you before you hear from someone else." And she's like, "What? That my brother did kill those 2 girls?" "Yeah, I know. I see it on TV right now." So, they have their little back and forth, and the shock's hitting her. And she's like, "I was screaming at him and just didn't know what to do. And then just, I was so shocked. She's like, I fell to my knees because I just didn't know what to do." She's like, "It was so weird because it didn't feel real." And she said that just for months after this news broke, that she just was in this daze, and she's like, "I was just begging God to wake me up." And I like that little quote that she wanted this nightmare to end, but it wasn't a nightmare because ain't nobody waking up. This is real life. They also found a 3rd body elsewhere, buried in the woods, and he claimed to have killed 3 other women in addition to that, but they never found their remains. And we're kind of getting towards the end of the episode, but we do meet one other person really quickly. We meet the homicide detective who was part of Denver PD and worked on this case. His name is Joel Humphrey. He's kind of confirming the more details of the case for us. He does confirm that all of the victims were sex workers, that his MO was consistent, and basically what he would do is he would pick them up, take them back to his house, and then once they got there, to get that physical dominance over them, he would either knock them out and or hold them at gunpoint to contain them so he could rape them. And while we're getting this information and some more information that I'll go into from the detective, we're going back and forth with this interrogation footage, and it's just like so crazy because he's sitting there with the legal pad. It's very much like, okay, let's make our grocery list. What's our meal plan for this week? He says, quote, let's see, girl number 1, dark skin. And he's like writing it down and just very like casual. It's really disturbing. When he would assault them, he would force them to perform oral, anal, and vaginal intercourse and only stopped when he needed a rest. And when he was taking his breaks, he would force these women to pray for forgiveness for being promiscuous women.
We go back to the whole religious element from the beginning.
Yes. And we go back to his interrogation footage talking about this. And he says, quote, and I told them, didn't your mother ever tell you don't get in the car with a stranger? And then he goes on to say, we prayed before I killed them. And of course, the cops are like, who? Who's praying? And he's saying me and whatever victim it was at the time. He said, I told them we have to pray because if 2 people come together in God's name, he'll listen.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Just, oh my goodness. This is,
Uh-huh,
wow.
uh-huh. And then he would continue to rape them repeatedly, usually over a 24-hour period. And when he would need to go to sleep, he would handcuff the girl to him so they couldn't get away. During the investigation, authorities found a number of other victims of other women who had been sex workers who had been raped by him, but they either managed to escape or for some reason he let them go. We don't see a lot of the court stuff, but at least one of the survivors did testify or, did make a victim impact statement.
Good.
So back to Danielle now, and she's looking at more pictures of RP and being all like lovey, which I'm just at that point, I'm like, you know what he did now? Like, ew, but whatever. She says, quote, a lot of people that I know were really upset at me for telling them where he was, meaning the cops. I had some family members that were just furious with me, wouldn't speak to me. Some of them still don't. And then the backlash from it was even more difficult, and not in the way that people think. It's not because he was arrested. That was difficult. But the hard part was bringing pain to those people's families' lives. A lot of these women were killed. Their families had not reported them missing. Now they knew that the person was absolutely gone, and that was really hard for me. Just thinking about bringing pain into other people's lives, that was rough. It still is. It still makes me really sad for them. Well, RP, this is no shock because we are in Colorado. He cuts a deal with the prosecution to avoid the death penalty. He ends up pleading guilty to 2 counts of murder and 3 counts of assault. He was given a double life sentence without parole and, of course, no trial. So Danielle talks about afterwards, and she said that she at first turned to drinking because she needed the escape. She was just trying to survive, which is it's pretty common for that kind of thing to happen, right? And after a while, she's like, okay, I have to like get myself together. I have to like move on with my life. I have to, I can't do this. She's a mom. She's like, I have kids. Like, I have to move on with my life. So she ended up moving 3.5 hours away to start over. And because, everybody knew about her brother. So she's like, I just picked up and moved to somewhere where nobody knew me, nobody knew my brother, nothing. She says, even with that fresh start and everything, of course, it's still so hard all of these years later. And that what haunts her the most is something he said to her after he was arrested. He said to her, the only reason I told you is because I knew you'd do the right thing and you'd stop me. And so Danielle says to us, the viewers, I think my brother was begging people to help him and to stop him. And I think he was telling everybody and anybody so that somebody can make him stop, and nobody did, which unintentionally Danielle did, not in the way she thought she was, but
Right. She
she
thought she
did.
was, like, bringing closure to a family who thought that their son, I'm assuming it was a male, had killed himself, and they didn't know why. And so she was
Right.
bringing peace in a way, saying, like, it was actually an accident, like, he wasn't suicidal, he didn't have ideations, none of that. Also, she kinda, like, gave peace to other stories because I'm sure people were like, "We haven't heard from this person in so long. I hope they're okay." And though there was pain, like, ultimately, they could grieve and, like, heal.
Right, for sure. She also says, I wonder why, and I wonder what I could have done. Why didn't I see through it? Why didn't I know? she's like, "That's it. Why didn't I know?" I still wonder if there was something else I could have done if I had believed him. Even one less person or even two wouldn't be dead. And she says that she lives with this guilt and she's gonna live with that guilt forever for not believing him when she first started hearing this. That kind of is where our episode ends. And for me, I'm liking this because I feel like, at least so far, we're getting these cases where it's like you feel like you want to react like, well, I would have acted in such and such way. And I'm like, but would you have? Because it's also
Right.
like it's happening in that moment. We're reacting in that way because we know the context. We know he's a murderer for real and all this
Right.
thing. And then to me, the biggest thing that I got throughout this whole thing was that whole thought of, oh, but it's my brother. Like,
Right.
that, like, but it's your blah, blah, blah. Like, that's what it was. And
And she
obviously
loved
still
him.
is.
She wanted to
Yeah.
protect him or wanted to believe that he was just a liar and not a murderer, because that's what I
Right.
would want.
Right, exactly, yeah, you don't expect these people you care about to be awful, awful monsters, and considering the reactions for the family, that's where I got the vibe of them being like, they don't like to involve law enforcement with things in life probably so much. It's tough. I don't know. It's been a really interesting series because it also made me reflect back on our first episode of this. So that is going to be where we end things for today. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you're watching, let us know how you guys feel about it. And I don't think we actually said this. I think we just said we're going to do this right now, but we got a couple more of these episodes we're going to dive into for a little bit. And yeah,
Mhm.
so we'll be back with episode 3 next week. Bye, guys.
Toodles.